In this video, 452 advanced kidney disease patients were just able to drop their proteinuria levels by a staggering 3 times. Not just cut in half, decreased 3-fold. And all from the one simple dietary change, a change that literally saved them from the machine. Catherine here, I'm a doctor of natural medicine, and here is the brutal truth for anyone battling CKD. If you don't get your protein right, there is absolutely no avoiding the machine. Because not all protein is created equal. And here is some incredible news. While most protein sources will overwhelm your fragile filters with toxic acid, phosphorus, and nitrogen, there are high-quality, complete protein sources that are actually kidney protecting. It's true, while most proteins dump toxins into your blood, there are specific proteins that actively detoxify your kidneys. So today, we are exposing the good protein, the bad protein, and the kidney-killing protein. Let's get the scary stuff out of the way immediately. Let's talk about the exact protein sources that can literally destroy your kidneys. Animal-based protein. Yes, your meat, white meat, fish, eggs, and dairy. You see how much that little kidney is suffering? It's crying under the toxic load. Poor thing. Please don't do that to your own kidneys. Stop eating animal-based foods now. But you have probably been told a million times that you need this stuff to be healthy, alright? That you need to eat meat. A steak never killed anyone, they say. And don't get me wrong, it's true. Eating meat, it doesn't kill you. It will just make dialysis no longer a matter of if, but a matter of when. So here's the thing. If spending a lot, and I mean a lot of time tied to a machine that literally sucks the blood out of you doesn't bother you, you can stop watching this video right now. But if you consider kidney health a priority, well, you must avoid kidney-killing protein. But before I reveal the foods you can actually eat safely, there is a terrifying question you are probably asking yourself right now. Is completely removing animal protein going to cause dangerous deficiencies? Honestly, yes. A completely plant-based diet can create nutritional deficiencies, but you need it to avoid the machine. Here is the harsh reality of going 100% plant-based. Plants are an absolute miracle for your kidneys, but they are completely missing vitamin B12. And on top of that, your natural intake of vitamin D and iron is going to take a massive hit. So you just go to the pharmacy and buy a standard renal multivitamin to fill the gaps, right? Wrong! Here is the dirty little secret the supplement industry doesn't want you to know. If you look at the back of any renal multivitamin on the market, you will see a cheap synthetic form of vitamin B12 called cyanocobalamin. Your struggling kidneys have to work overtime just to process and convert it. It's not the natural form. Why on earth would you force your fragile kidneys to do more work? That is exactly why I formulated my own renal multivitamin, RenaBest. RenaBest refuses to use cheap shortcuts. We use methylcobalamin. This is the pure, active, premium form of vitamin B12. Your body recognizes it and absorbs it instantly. It completely fills that plant-based nutritional gap without putting a single drop of stress on your kidney filters. But RenaBest doesn't just stop at preventing deficiencies. It actively goes on the offensive. I loaded RenaBest with a heavy-duty shield of kidney-protecting antioxidants, including powerful clinical doses of CoQ10 to actively defend your kidney cells from oxidative stress, while your new diet helps them heal. You want the life-saving benefits of a plant-based diet without the terrifying risk of nutritional deficiencies? You need the right tools. Visit renabiotech.co right now or click the link in the description below and get your bottle of RenaBest today. Okay guys, let's go back to our 4 types of protein. We have already exposed what you must always avoid. Now, let's talk about the protein sources that should be limited. These are foods that are not nearly as dangerous as animal-based protein, but still require caution. I'm talking about most legumes, nuts, and seeds. But there are a few incredible exceptions though, and we will reveal them in a moment. So here is the thing about legumes, nuts, and seeds. When I design a custom renal diet, I almost always put these protein sources in the limited zone. Among the foods, my patients can eat 2 or 3 times a week. Why? Because I want my patients to actually enjoy their food. I try to include as much variety as possible so they don't give up from diet fatigue. But if I told a CKD patient it was safe to eat an unlimited mountain of beans and nuts, I will be actively destroying their kidneys. It will be a total disaster for them, but absolutely great for the Vita's stock price. But this video is not about Wall Street. It's about saving you from the dialysis clinic. So you might be asking, why are legumes, nuts, and seeds bad for the kidneys? Isn't plant protein supposed to be healthier? Well, they are healthier than animal-based protein, but they aren't perfect. Let me explain. There are 3 reasons a protein source can hurt your kidneys: acid, phosphorus, and nitrogen. First, acid. Animal foods are massive acid bombs that destroy your filters. Legumes and nuts produce some acid, but far less. Second, phosphorus. Meat is a phosphorus nightmare. Plants are much safer because their phosphorus is bound in phytic acid, which your body barely absorbs. If it were just about acid and phosphorus, beans and nuts would be perfectly in the green. But here is the catch. They are still packed with protein, alright? And that's bad. Protein, even from plants, releases a lot of nitrogen in the body. So avoid animal-based protein above all else. A chicken breast gives you 30 grams of toxic protein, and limit legumes intake. A portion of beans gives you just 10 grams, but for a fragile kidney, those 10 grams are still too much. And worse, it is a low-quality, incomplete protein. It is just not worth the risk. There are better, complete, high-quality protein sources we should be focusing on instead. Now, before we see what protein actually protects the kidneys, you might ask, but what if I need more protein than other people? Isn't removing all the protein going to damage my body? Well, yes, that can happen to some patients. Some patients actually benefit from eating slightly more protein as long as it's high-quality, low-phosphorus protein. Actually, there are 3 groups that need more protein than typical CKD patients. First group, dialysis patients. If you are on dialysis, cutting protein can help, but in most cases, it won't bring your kidneys back. So, we don't usually recommend dialysis patients cutting protein too much. Second group, sarcopenic patients in the early stages of CKD. Sarcopenic means dangerously low muscle mass, alright? This especially happens in very frail, elderly patients. For them, CKD might not be the primary threat, so doctors may prioritize their muscle mass over their kidney health. But it's a rather thin balance because eating too much protein can actually make muscle mass loss faster. Third group that needs more protein are patients in the early stages of CKD and without severe proteinuria. So let's say your GFR is around 55 or more. Well, you may still benefit from eating some more protein. Not a lot. The standard Western diet is way too rich in protein, even for a patient in the early stages. But removing protein too much doesn't seem to help in stage 2 nearly as much as it helps in stage 4. So there are 3 groups that need more protein: patients on dialysis, sarcopenic patients, and those in the early stages. And please note that I've not included diabetic patients in any of these groups. We used to recommend people with diabetes more protein to, slow down carb absorption and prevent insulin spikes, but that's a temporary fix that doesn't help with the root of the problem at all. We don't really do that anymore because here is the thing. Damaging your kidneys is never worth a very slightly lower postprandial blood glucose, alright? So let's see where to get this precious protein from. There are 6 foods I always recommend when it comes to healthy kidney protecting protein. First of all, these 2 whole grains, buckwheat and quinoa. Buckwheat and quinoa are very healthy. They are gluten-free whole grains high in soluble fiber and antioxidants. And they have something most plant-based foods don't have: high-quality, complete protein. Listen, a lot of influencers, keto gurus, and other self-proclaimed experts tell you that meat is better because it has all the 9 essential amino acids. It's a complete protein. Well, what they fail to mention is that foods like buckwheat and quinoa also are a complete protein source. They also have all the 9 essential amino acids, but Unlike a steak, they won't overload your kidneys with acid and phosphorus. It's a win-win situation. And you can eat them daily because they are not particularly high in protein. Little protein, but high quality protein. This is what your kidneys need. Yeah, those keto experts didn't know that you can get high quality protein from plants and without having to mix legumes and grains. Speaking of which, another super underrated complete protein source is chia seeds. Now, when it comes to nuts and seeds, most of them are low-quality, incomplete protein sources. The exception here are chia seeds, pumpkin seeds, and hemp seeds. All of them are complete protein sources, but chia seeds are the best of the best. Chia seeds are one of the best omega-3 sources you can find, and omega-3s are incredibly important. They fight the inflammation, which is a primary driver of kidney damage. This is why, just like buckwheat and quinoa, chia seeds can be eaten every day, but in moderation. The protein sources I've included in this short list, buckwheat, quinoa, and chia seeds, are fine every day because they have around 5 to 7 grams of protein per portion. Most CKD patients can include them in their diet as long as they are avoiding other protein sources, alright? Now guys, in this section, I've also included 2 very peculiar legumes, mung beans and soy. But what's so special about them, you ask? Well, just like the other foods in this section, they are a plant-based protein source that's also complete, which is pretty rare, alright? Most plant-based foods, your seeds, your legumes, are not complete protein. They lack one or more essential amino acids, but the foods in this category are different. They are complete, high-quality, plant-based protein. These are real superfoods for CKD patients, just like spirulina. Spirulina is an amazing source of antioxidants. It's actually 4 times more powerful than blueberries. Now, spirulina is probably the only non-plant-based foods that I consider a superfood. In fact, you can get many nutrients from it that you won't get easily from plant-based foods. Iron is an example. Spirulina is super rich in iron. You are also going to get loads of vitamins and useful minerals such as thiamine, riboflavin, copper, and more. And of course, it's an amazing source of complete high-quality protein. Very bioavailable as well. But here is the thing. While I recommend buckwheat, quinoa, and chia seeds to all my patients, legumes and spirulina are only safe for those who actually need more protein. Do you remember what I was saying earlier about certain groups of patients who can benefit from a higher protein intake? Patients on dialysis, those in the early stages, and old sarcopenic patients. If you are in one of these categories, soy-based foods and mung beans, if you are in India, are your best friends. But for everyone else, limiting protein is what saves kidneys. Now, a question you might want to ask about protein intake is, will cutting protein affect my muscle mass? Well guys, for patients in the advanced stages of CKD, reducing protein intake can actually help preserve muscle mass. Yes, you heard it right. If you have CKD, science says that reducing protein intake is what your muscles need. The key here is acid. Alright, the general population can eat as much meat as they want because their kidneys will filter the acid created during protein metabolism. But when CKD is present, the kidneys lose that ability, and most patients will need to supplement sodium bicarbonate in order to balance acid levels. And here's the thing, we know today that this excess acid, which not always can be managed effectively with sodium bicarbonate, causes loss of muscle mass. So here's my point. I've met probably dozens and dozens of patients over the years who were so scared about going low protein that they were slowly killing their kidneys and their muscles by eating more protein than they needed.
A lot of people are worried about their muscle mass and they have been told to eat more protein to preserve their muscle mass. Alright? Wrong! The amount of damage excess acid does to your muscles is so meaningful, it will make the added protein irrelevant for muscle mass. So if your goal is not just protecting your kidneys but your muscles as well, never eat animal protein. While the general population can eat high acidity foods such as meat and junk foods, those with reduced GFR don't have that luxury. Here's what science says about this. CKD significantly affects the development of sarcopenia through metabolic acidosis. What this means is that acid is destroying your muscles and your kidneys. And do you know what foods produce the highest amount of acid? Meat, poultry, dairy, fish, high protein foods in general. Yeah, you will lose muscles if you don't eat protein, they say. Meanwhile, science is 100% clear that eating high-protein foods is what's destroying your muscles.
But when I started them on a low-protein diet, their muscle mass actually improved. Granted, they didn't become Mr. Olympia overnight, but they started to feel better and stronger. And here's the thing, acid, nitrogen, and phosphorus from animal-based foods are so bad for your body that we are starting to use low-protein diets in dialysis patients as well. It's true. If you look at this large meta-analysis conducted on hemodialysis patients, you will see that a low-protein diet can improve your urine output and GFR numbers even if you are on dialysis. And here's the most impressive part. You think that the amount of protein these patients have in their blood for their body to use will decrease, alright? Wrong! Their serum albumin, main marker for the amount of protein in blood, improved. It didn't decrease when reducing protein intake. It improved. And this is what your muscles need. Not to eat steak, but to have amino acids in blood they can actually benefit from. But what if we had a protein source that didn't actually add toxins and nitrogen to the body, but remove them? I'm talking, of course, about keto analogs. This is a powerful supplement for patients that can't give up protein, but whose kidneys can't tolerate protein toxins. Sounds like a conundrum, but it isn't. The truth is that it's not the amino acids in protein that damage the kidneys, but the nitrogen, phosphorus, acid, and other toxins you will get from protein. But keto analogs are pure amino acid supplements without any phosphorus, acid, or even nitrogen. This is incredibly important for people with CKD. Nitrogen, in particular, is the main toxin that accumulates in advanced CKD and the main reason why end-stage patients need dialysis. But keto analogs don't have nitrogen. They actually remove nitrogen from the body. And this effect is powerful. So powerful it can make hemodialysis withdrawal possible, says this recent paper. In this study, a 70-year-old dialysis patient was able to get off dialysis completely, mainly thanks to a very low protein diet and keto analogs. Want to know more? My video up here is for you, and this is all for today. Thank you for watching. God bless you all. Bye!